So thank you for coming along to our first bike maintenance webinar on reviving your old bike. As I said, I'm going to be hosting. I'm Susan, and I'm going to pass over to Dave in just a second. He's our bike maintenance expert. He's going to give some basic tips, but is happy to take questions. So we want this to be as interactive as possible. So over to Dave.
Okay, thanks, Susan. Well, I have a wee structure, and my structure is the assumption that you're a bicycle owner and maybe you haven't seen your bike for quite a while and been in the shed, or you're maybe not a bicycle owner, but you're maybe an informed relative or neighbour, someone who does have a bike and they're saying, oh, my bike's in the shed, I always see you on your bike there, you must know about these things. Can you tell me if it's okay and if it's worth getting going? And what kind of things could I do to maybe, make it better and make it to actually work, kind of thing. So we're assuming that a bike's maybe been in the shed for a number of years. It's sitting with flat tyres. So to approach this, how would you look at the bicycle and your first steps in assessing it to see if it was going to be worth doing? So the first thing I've got here as an example is a piece of tyre which I've cut, and this is a tyre which is perished. So what I'm trying to do here is open this crack on the side wall of the tyre up. Yeah, I don't know, can everybody see that? If you nod, if you can see that, can you see there's a crack in the side wall there? It's a tyre which is basically totally perished. Yeah, so if the first thing when you see when approaching the bike in the shed is that it's sitting on flat tyres and the tyres are basically that's a sure sign that first thing that the bike needs is new tyres. And if the tyres are in that condition, they probably need new inner tubes as well. Yeah, so this is just to try and build up a picture. So another thing to look at is any of the bike components, and what I've got here as an example is a front derailleur. So the front derailleur is the gear changer which moves the chain from the little cog to the middle cog to the big cog if you've got multiple freewheels on the front. And the reason I've kept this is because it's very dirty. It's actually rusty, dirty seized solid. Yeah, this is totally unsavable. It's really just fit for the scrap. I don't know, I hope everyone can see how rusty it is, and it's really just done. So if you're looking at a bike and you see components like that, that's a sure sign that what you're looking at is a bike which would certainly need new components such as that to make it work, because that's unsavable. So the next thing to do would be to look at your valves and see if you can put air in the tyres. Okay, so what I've got here is I've got the two bicycle valves which you're most likely to encounter. This one is called a Presta valve, and it's the valve which has the little wee brass nut there which screws out and in. So you open up the valve by screwing the wee brass nut there, and then that allows the valve to move out and in. Your pump goes over the top. I've brought a bicycle pump to show everyone. So this is a bike pump which has got a head for both types of valves. It's got there, which is a narrower diameter than that one there, which is for that one. So that valve, the Schrader one, which is the same as what you have in your car, fits in there. And then the Presta fits in the narrower one. So you'd be finding what valve you've got and then what pump you've got to basically try and put air in the tyres. So you go pump, 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 put air in the tyres, see how you go on. The next thing to look at would be the condition of the handlebar grips and the cables. And what you'd be looking for there is to trace their length and look and see if you can see any corrosion, any splits, anything like that. While you're there at the handlebars, you might want to actually try and operate the brakes. So you're going to be working the brake levers, maybe try and rock the bike backwards and forwards, see what's happening. If you've got a brake, if the cable's totally corroded and stuck, you're obviously not going to get a brake. And similarly, if the gear changers are on the flat bar bike, if the gear changers are there, if it's pod shifters with two triggers, you might want to click a trigger and see what happens. Yeah. But again, your general intuition and feeling that you get for the bike when you first see it, with things like the tyres, things like rusty components, are going to give you an idea as to whether it's useful for getting back on the road. So let's assume that the only thing that's wrong with your bike is maybe a couple of corroded cables and maybe air in the tyres. So you would take your bike out the shed, obviously, give yourself a bit of space, and the first thing you're going to have to do is to take the wheels off. Now, if you've got quick release levers, I'll assume that you know what a quick release lever is, yeah? That's easy enough. You would undo the brakes with the pipe at the V brake, and that allows the wheel to come out and in. If you don't have quick releases, you've got nuts, and what you need is a spanner, which is always a 15mm spanner. Yeah, so if you've got a bike with nutted wheels, you're going to need a 15mm spanner to take the wheels off and on. A lot of kids' bikes, some of the kids' bikes, which are BMXs, they've got bigger wheel nuts. Again, if you've got one of them, you're looking to have the correct spanner. So wheel off with a spanner or the quick release, and then what I would be looking for is to get the tyre off. And to get the tyre off, I'm going to use tyre levers. So a tyre lever, these ones are plastic, a very hard plastic which doesn't snap. And what happens there is that the tyre lever goes in between the tyre and the rim, and it levers it off. And you have two, and this bit here goes into the nipples, into the spokes, to hold that in place, to allow you to then come along maybe an inch, maybe an inch and a half distance, about 4 or 5 centimetres, and then prise that in, and then do two. And then that allows you to actually work the tyre off to take the inner tube out. So obviously I can't show you how to put an inner tube in because we're on a webinar, but that would be something that you could maybe ask somebody who does know how to do that to give you some help or something. Can I ask somebody to react with me and tell me if I'm pitching this too simplistic and at too low a level? That's okay. That's okay, Graham. Right. So wheels off, tyre loosened on one side, inner tube's out. Basically get a new tube in, or repair the tube with your patch, your inner tube repair kit, and get the tubes back in, and then get the wheels back on. Yeah, and then turn the bike back up. It's got air in the tyres. You've got a couple of corroded cables. If the cables aren't totally snapped, with loose strands of wire and things, you could, if you wanted to get some wire wool, just a ball of wire wool like that, or a Brillo pad, I suppose at a pinch that would do, and then just use that to clean the cable off, and that might be enough to get you freed up. So also, to make things easier, you can use various cleaning products. So this is just a bike wash, which you get many different types of. Don't use Fairy Liquid because that's loaded with salt and that will rust your bike away. So you can use that as, yes, Shona? Sorry. So you've got your bike wash, using that to clear dirt away and things, and then you've got a spray lube here, which is an aerosol with oil in it. This is a proprietary brand. Other brands do exist. WD-40 make a specific bicycle lubricant. Don't use the original WD-40, it's got too much solvent in, but they do a range. Another one is GT87, you'll see that. So you've got spray oil, and then you've also got oil which will come in a drip bottle like that. So you take the top off, and there's a spout, a conical spout, which allows you to drip oil out onto a chain. And also maybe you've got a rubber glove or two to obviously protect your hands from these chemicals. You've also got your old pillow slip or t-shirt, which you've torn up into rags. And then you can also use proprietary brushes, which are obviously shaped for things. This shape here allows you to get into the cogs where the chain goes on the back wheel, allows you to scrape out all the dirt. Various brushes that allow you to scrape that away. Here's another shaped brush. You would probably use that one to get into nooks and crannies in between the frame and components. And then if you're getting a new toothbrush, you can keep your old ones and you can usefully use that. That lets you get into wee places, kind of thing. Multi-tools, you might have a need to undo nuts which have got a hexagonal head, and that's what we use a multi-tool for. I've got one here which, as you can see, it's got a bike shop branded on it. It's a useful one. It's got a V-star screwdriver. It's got all the sizes of Allen keys that you could hope to need. It's got a wee plain screwdriver as well. Other ones come from manufacturers like these people. Again, this one's just Allen keys for hex head. And what I would say is, with basic maintenance and the revival of a bike that's been stored for quite a while, if you need to go beyond these tools, yeah, you got your tyre levers, your multi-tool, your spanner if you need to take the wheel off, you've got your brushes, your rags, you're really going beyond the basic maintenance that we're hoping to kind of cover in this webinar. And obviously before some people arrived, I was showing Graham this tool, which is to remove a crank. Now, if you're getting into the realms of having things, tools like that, obviously you're getting yourself skilled up so that you know what you're doing, and you've got a kind of skill with tools. A lot of people don't use tools on a daily basis. They don't use them on a monthly basis. So to actually be faced with, having to use a tool to do something to a bike can be quite daunting. So it's important that people know their limitations and they realise that in many ways it's maybe better to get help before they go the route of actually, maybe causing some damage to a bike, which would be good otherwise. So that's really just my wee introduction. Obviously, you would check the bike for its general roadworthiness, that the handlebars weren't floating about, moving, that you could actually wheel it along in a straight line. The saddle wasn't moving, the saddle wasn't going up and down, sort of thing. Just really basic fundamental things. And if it was, you would then have to obviously get the correct tool, whether it was an Allen key or whether it was a spanner because it was a nut and bolts fitting, to then put that right. So that's me. So Susan, that's kind of my wee introduction. There might be some questions resulting from that.
Has anyone got any questions?
Well, I guess to start off, my question was, so when I pull my front brakes, the tyre is slowing, but it's not stopping. And at what point do you know you need new brake blocks, or do you just need to adjust your brakes?
Right, the first thing in that instance. So I know on your bike that you've got V brakes.
Yes.
You've got V brakes. On your road bike, you've got a caliper brake. Yeah, so your touring bike with drop handlebars.
Yes.
You don't have V brakes, you have a caliper brake, which is
right.
like two yokes which
yes.
are together. Yeah.
Yeah.
On V brakes on your flat bar bike, you've got V brakes, which are arms, which are bolted to the frame. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you can see that. And on the end of the top of the arms are the cable anchor points.
Yeah.
Yeah, one's got a wee stirrup. The pipe, silver pipe, goes into that. Yeah. And the other arm, the cable's actually anchored on the top with an Allen headed bolt. Okay.
Okay.
So on both those brake styles, and even if it's disc brakes, if you've got a bike which has got hydraulic or cable operated disc brakes, the first thing we're looking to do is to make sure that the actual rubber surface or the material of the brake pad is actually clean. Yeah. And the best way to do that is to get a clean rag. Yeah. So this one's a nice white one, and actually use it to go in and clean on the surface that contacts the rim. Okay. Or the disc. Yeah. So if it's a disc brake bike, wheel out, clean cloth, no oil or anything on this cloth. This isn't a mucky rag. This is a clean first use cloth. Yeah. Because this is brakes. And get into the pads, the caliper, and give it a good clean out. Remove all the old dust and any contamination, yeah? And then, if you've done that, then look at the surface. So it's probably easier if you actually take the wheel out on your bicycle, yeah, to do this. So look actually on the rubber compound of the brake pad, whether it's a road bike or whether it's V-brakes. And what you'll be looking for are wee bits of aluminium, wee silvery bits of aluminium.
Okay. Okay.
Because what happens when you brake is that the rubber compound of the braking surface, interacts with the rim, and it actually shaves tiny, tiny wee shards of aluminium off your rim, and they get embedded in your rubber brake blocks because of the heat and everything. So the thing to do is to get like a wee pen knife or something, which you might use as well for scraping away really cruddied on dirt on your chain wheels and things, and use just the sharp point of your wee pen knife to actually pry the bits of aluminium out, or any other contaminants. You might get a wee stone in there, you might have like dust and dirt kind of thing, and just scrape that away, just using your wee pen knife. And then the next thing to do, and again a bit of wire wool, with the wheel off, is actually to rub on the rim. So rub your rim, with a bit of wire wool. And what that'll do is it'll take away all the road dust and all the build up of dust and braking rubber from your compound on your brake blocks from the rim. It will remove that. In doing that, you're giving the brakes the best chance that they have to actually operate effectively. Now, there might be another element in the control system, which could be the cable, it could be the springiness of the brake arms, it could be the hydraulic system that's not actually preventing that from acting as efficiently as it could.
Okay.
David, you mentioned about the rims, cleaning the rims there. How often do the rims actually fail? Do you get failure at the rims? When you're doing the check of the bike, they always say check the rims. Yes. And I'm not really sure what I'm looking for when I'm checking the rims. How do you spot early signs of the rim failing?
Right. Well, on the majority of bicycle rims now, on bikes which are costing upwards of maybe 400 quid, and they're rim braked bikes, there will be a groove machined into the actual rim. Okay, so the wheel rim actually has a groove machined into it when they're making the rim in the factory. And what that groove does is, when that groove disappears, it's time for new rims. The other way to try and ascertain wear is to just, with the pad of your index finger, just rub it across the braking surface, and you'll feel it concave. So concave is when it goes in the way, it's when it bulges out. So a concave rim is a sure sign that the brake blocks have worn away the central area of metal, leaving obviously the ridges. Another way to do it is to get a flat edge, a ruler or any kind of flat edge, and actually hold it up against the rim, So if you hold it up against the rim, and this is a kind of exaggerated version, so that's your rim, okay? And that's your straight edge. And if you hold that up like that, you can obviously see that there is a pronounced concave effect. What not to do is to set off on your bike from wherever you live to Oban, to have a night in the youth hostel, and then head to Mull and get off the ferry in Mull and turn left, and you're going along that flat bit and you have to brake, and you hear this thud, 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 thud noise, which is basically your rim so worn it's actually breaking apart, so that when you brake, your brake block's actually acting on a bit of broken rim, and what you're doing is you're destroying your brake blocks as well. Then you have to abandon your cycle tour of Mull and all points north and west, and you have to come home. As happened to me once.
These things always seem to happen when you're furthest away from home, furthest away from a bike shop.
Do, yes. So on a disc brake bike, it's no longer a concern. I mean, you will not wear out the rim. The worst that will happen is that you damage the rim because you go into a pothole, or you're doing some serious mountain biking and careering down mountains, and you damage it that way. So rims will obviously, as disc brakes become more commonplace, rims wearing out will not become an issue for people that have got disc brake bikes. But what I would say, as a committed cycle tourist, these are things you're looking at. And to be fair, the easiest way to do it is just to rub it with your finger, and you'll feel it going concave. And it's building up if you're building up a regular maintenance regime, you know, getting away from finding the abandoned bike in the shed. If you're actually maintaining your own bike and you're getting to know the parts, that's when you'll start to notice these things. Yeah.
So how long would you expect a rim to last? I mean, how many miles would you get out of a rim on average?
I don't know. It's how long's a piece of string. It depends on, obviously, the braking forces depend on the mass of the rider. Yeah. So if you're a heavier rider, yeah, you're obviously going to be using more of the friction material from your brakes to slow down than if you were lighter. Yeah. So things like that affect it. The riding conditions, if you're riding a lot in the dusty, gritty, wet conditions, you're obviously building up a lot of contaminants. I mean, I'm trying to think. I mean, I used to record things like that for myself. I wouldn't want to say you couldn't put a figure on it. You couldn't put a figure on it. What I would say is that every time you're changing your brake blocks, you're obviously losing a bit of your rim. You know, that's what's happening. That friction is wearing away the rubber, and it's also wearing away a bit of your rim. So that's what I would say. But just the concave, to look for it forming concave. And here I keep examples of rims which have worn out. And when it wears out, what happens is the metal in the central section of the rim becomes so thin that the pressure of the inner tube in the tyre actually separates it. The metal is actually fatigued by the force of the inner tube in the tyre pushing the rim apart. So that's, and what you'll see is, obviously with the circumference of the wheel being round, you'll actually see a crack starting to emerge in the worst case.
That's good, thanks.
Does anyone have any more specific questions or any general topics they'd like to hear a bit more about?
This is my touring bike, and if I've checked all that and everything's fine, but I'm pulling my brake and it's still not totally stopping the wheel, what should I be looking at then?
Right, you should be thinking about the effectiveness of the control system between the lever,
Yes,
the hands acting on. So on a drop bar bike, it's obviously like that. Yeah. Your hand is actuating a lever, which is pulling a cable, which is attached to the brake. Yeah. So there's something in that system, which means that the whole force in your hand pulling that lever isn't being translated to braking force.
Yeah.
So this is on your touring bike.
Yes.
This is on your touring bike, which has got caliper brakes. Yeah, it's got like 2 yokes.
Yes.
Yeah. The yokes should be sitting centrally so that when the brake blocks are hitting the rim, both brake blocks hit the rim at the same time.
Yep.
Because otherwise, you've only got one brake block being effective in the braking. So both need to be hitting at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah. So that would be the first thing, would be to check the centralisation of the brake blocks and that it's actually hitting the rim at the same time.
It is.
And then you'd be looking at the condition of the cabling. Is there maybe some kind of perishing occurring in the cabling so that when you're pulling the lever, some of that force is being lost through the cable being perished? That can't be the case, is it?
No, well, that's hard because it's the front brakes, so the cable's obviously encased in plastic, so you can't see it.
Yeah, you will seldom get a cable brake inside the outer housing. Yeah.
Okay.
You'll usually see a cable fraying and actually corroding where it's open. So where it's open to the elements. Yeah.
Okay.
Which in the case of your brakes is where the cable goes into the little screw adjuster.
Yeah.
Yeah, on one of the yoke arms.
Yeah.
And then the exposed bit below that where it then goes to an anchor bolt.
Yes.
Yeah.
It looks lovely.
It looks lovely. The other thing as well is that perhaps the braking force that I could exert through your brakes, the braking force that you can exert through them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, but the back one works better than the front one. So.
Well, that as well, right, is because when you're on a bicycle, so you're sitting, you've got your hands on the bars, your bum on the seat, right? And when you brake, what you naturally do is you push on your hands to move your weight backwards. You're moving your mass back, yeah, because that gives you a more efficient brake. And 9 times out of 10, your back brake is always going to feel better than your front.
Right.
So there's more weight being pushed over the back wheel, and there's more weight in the back of the bike anyway. Yeah, but what you maybe could think about is getting levers which are more effective. Yeah, because when it leaves the factory, it's just got brake levers. Yeah, it's just whatever they're fitting at that point. But you do get, and it's a fairly specialist bit of kit, but you do get levers that compensate for people who are like yourself and have got small hands.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't get these things. You've got auxiliary levers on the top.
I've got top levers, yes.
Yeah. So see when you're using when you're in the drop bar position, right, and you're using your brakes, and then when you're in auxiliary lever position with your hands on top of the bars, do you get a better brake from your auxiliary levers than you do from the drop bars?
I never use the auxiliary ones ever.
Never.
Ever. I'm trying it now. Oh, they work better.
Yeah. So you tend to ride. So I would say that you tend to ride with your thumb on the brake hoods.
Yes.
Yeah. So you got your thumb there and your hands there. Yeah. When you're braking, what you're doing is you're braking from the hoods. Yeah. So you're trying to control your hands, and if you show everybody your hands.
Little hands.
Little hands.
Little hands.
Little economic historian hands. So
Tiny.
you're probably not getting as much of a pull as the likes of Graham would or I would, is what I would say. So maybe in terms of your cycling practice, right, you know, on the top of your bars. And to be fair, you know, you're never on the drops, you know, on a road bike. Not when you get to your age, Shona.
No.
On the hood. You're on the hoods, or you've got your hands on the flat bit of the bar.
Yes. Yes.
So next time you go for a sizable lengthy trip, you know, use your auxiliary levers more, and you might noticeable improvement in your braking performance.
Okay. It's quite a big stretch, I find.
For the auxiliary levers.
Yes, which is why I don't use them so much, you know, with my little hands.
Well, what tends to happen is when you're using auxiliary levers, you basically got your hands on the bars, and then your auxiliary levers, you should be able to touch them with the tips of your fingers, and then just extend a wee bit to then pull.
Okay, yes. Good advice.
Thank you.
One thing to mention, when I got caught out, I was feeling really adventurous at one point and decided to change the brake cable. I went away and bought brake cables and whatever, and I got all put through. In fact, the cables are really difficult to cut if you don't have the right tool. Because I tried a wire cutter and it just wouldn't do it. And I landed up having to go and buy a special tool that cost about 25 quid. So it'd been much better taking it to a bike shop to get it done.
Such is life with so many things, you know. That you're right. It's a simple thing like cutting an inner cable, you know. Yeah.
Great. Graham, did you have a question?
Well, first, something I found works very well as a brake is if you carry a hoodie top or a jumper over your front handlebars and it hangs down into the wheel and then suddenly gets drawn in between the wheel and the fork. That happened to me once. It brought the bike to an instant halt. It stood up on its front wheel and tipped me off over the handlebars. So don't do that. But the question I was kind of come on to, if we've finished on braking, this about lubricating the chain and the gears. Have you got advice about that for us?
Yes. So
How often and what with? That
yeah,
kind of.
yeah. So the idea would be to use your cleaning fluid in your spray bottle. Yeah. So what I
Right.
do, I use that. This is a litre bottle, and there's probably half out of it. So what I'll do is I'll get like 2 litres out of that. So I'll look at the water again, and it's okay, and that goes in a spray. So the other half of that's in a spray bottle. So I would spray that on the components that you want to clean.
Yep.
Then if you need to agitate any really stubborn grease, dirt, whatever, you would use obviously a brush from your selection, even if it's an old paintbrush or something. And what you do is to get in and actually free off all the solid dirt, yeah, and then give it another spray. And what you'll do is you'll remove the residue of the dirt you've cleaned off, and then you'll be introducing more cleaner to go into the nooks and crannies of the chain, yeah, inside the rollers. So it's really to get it as clean as you possibly can. And again, your rags, so you'll be using probably on a dirty chain, on a dirty derailleur system, you'll be using a couple of rags. And again, off, so you're cleaning all the time. Keep spraying your fluid. And the thing with the spray is that it doesn't use up too much. And you do get versions of this which come in aerosols, and they're like more a solvent based, a more aggressive chemical, yeah. So if you feel that you're not getting anywhere with that, that would be something to consider, because a lot of the really aggressive chemical cleaners work really well. There's a brand which is called Muck Off.
Sorry, how do you spell that?
MUC off.
Oh, right, Muck Off, right. Muck Off.
Yeah, and what Muck Off is because these cleaners are all alkali based now, because obviously you can't put acid into the environment, so alkalis break in the drains. And what Muck Off do is they market a whole range of cleaners, yeah, which claim to be for different things, but effectively they're all the same thing. And the other thing to remember is that when you're buying the quantities which are sold for cyclists, they come in small bottles, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The quantities which are marketed at motorcyclists, yeah, you get more and it's cheaper. So the unit price is cheaper if you buy the stuff which is branded for motorcyclists than the stuff that's branded for cyclists.
David, on your greener credentials, I read somewhere fairly recently there was some worry about some of these cleaners for the environment. I think Muck Off was one of the ones was meant to be reasonably good. Can you able to?
I don't know what's in Muck Off. I only know what's in this one, and this one tells me that it's an alkali. It used to be kind of acid based, or really hydrocarbons, things that are chemicals and petrol, paraffin, things like that. I mean, your granddads would tell you stories about having a bucket of paraffin and throwing your chain in it and cleaning it that way. And yeah, that's perfectly acceptable, but we don't use paraffin anymore. It's not a freely available product. So in terms of the environment, these alkali based ones are a lot kinder than paraffin or anything which is hydrocarbon based, because that does go into the environment. It never gets destroyed. It evaporates away, but it always goes somewhere.
Graham, did you have another question?
No, that's me.
So you're using your brushes, Graham, and you're cleaning the chain and you're getting into the derailleurs. So you would have your brush, and you've got your really dirty example here. So what you're looking to do here is the pivot points, yeah. So you're looking to get all the muck and all the dirt away from all these pivot points where the mechanism actually moves. And if you look at the mechanisms, the gear changes on your own bike, you'll basically, and if you look at them when they're moving and working, you'll see the pivot points. So you'll see the parts which are actually pivoting and moving. And the idea is to get those areas as clean as possible, yeah? So that when you oil it, you're actually putting the oil into where it needs to be, which is where the two parts of metal are actually interacting, yeah? That you see a lot of people will get, they'll buy a bottle of spray oil and they'll liberally spray the chain, yeah, and all over the derailleurs and things. well, they're probably wasting 10-15% of the oil that they're spraying on, because it's going nowhere where it's useful. And then to oil your chain, you've got your drip bottle with its conical spout, and if you elevate the bike, the back end of the bike, yeah, so it's off the ground, so that you can turn the pedals, yeah, you can turn the chain wheels, the chain's going to turn the rear wheel, and while you're doing that, if you drip oil onto the chain, and you're looking to maybe put 8-10 squirts of oil onto the chain, and the movement will work the oil into the rollers of the chain where the oil needs to be. Yeah. But the best way to keep your gears running as long as they possibly can, following a service or somebody, basically a new bike, is to keep them clean. The cleaner you keep your bike, the longer the components will last, because you're getting rid of all the dirt and the grit that corrodes and erodes everything away. And then you're in a position where you're basically keeping your bike as sweet as possible. Yeah. And what I always say to people when I do the practical demonstrations for Greener Kirkcaldy, I always say to people that the best thing you can do is maybe every 2-3 weeks, if you're using your bike maybe 40-50 miles a week, yeah, or less, once a month, actually get out with your rags, give yourself an hour out with your rags, your brushes, your cleaning materials, and actually get in and clean everything up, and start with, a bike which is going to give you the best service.
Would you recommend that for all types of cycling, or would you say if you're doing mountain biking as opposed to road biking, you need to clean it more frequently?
Yeah, obviously the conditions you're riding in. If your bike's being covered in, you're riding in wet, mucky forests, yeah, and your bike's getting really muddy, yeah, you need to clean it off. What not to do if you're riding in those conditions is to get a jet wash and basically jet wash your bike, because what you'll do is you'll literally flush the grease out of the bearings, the ball bearings which are in the hubs and the bottom bracket and in the steering. And once that grease is washed away, basically it's replaced by moisture and water. And what you're doing is you're actually corroding your bike worse than you would be if you let it dry a bit and then just used a light spray from a hose and maybe a brush or a rag and just actually cleaned it off. So that makes sense?
And you say not to use fairy liquid when you're cleaning your bike?
No, fairy liquid, what they do is, I have a cousin that works in the industries that makes, say, household cleaning materials and formulate, well, your washing tablets that you put in the machine and your fairy liquid and your dishwashing tablets and things like that. The formulation of those changes on a basis on the price of the components that they put in them. And she tells me that when the price of the components which do the cleaning work, when it rises, what they do is they bulk the product out with sodium chloride. That's what they do, they add salt to it. And fairy liquid is renowned that it's got lots of salt in it. It's like your car, if you were to wash your car with fairy liquid, what you're doing is you're stripping away all the waxes and things which are protecting the paint. And it's the same for a bike. So that's the chemistry. Don't use fairy liquid. Yes, Graham. Yeah.
Hi, my wife wonders if she can ask a question. Just by here, by my wife Beverly. Bev,
am I allowed to ask a question?
can she ask? Hi, here.
I'll just come across. Didn't turn that, I'll come across.
I can see you now.
You can see me?
Aye.
All right.
Can you
hear me? Hear me? I have a KMX kart bike. It's a reclining bike, which was modified for me because I have cerebral palsy. So, but the issue is I have a machine on my spine, and because it's low down and it's got a bucket seat, when I sit on it, the machine in my spine presses on the bucket seat and it causes me pain. And it's just wonderful that I've never been able to have the sensation that you do a movement and you go so far. I've never been able to ride a bike. So when I first got into this bike, it was amazing, but I can't use it because it hurts me. and I'm not sure where I'd be able to source a soft seat, if you understand what I mean. Does that make sense?
I think what you're describing is that if the seat was to have more pronounced bolsters, yeah, at the sides, what you'd be doing is creating a space where actual bolsters. So if the seat I'm sitting on, yeah, has got side bolsters, yeah, and perhaps what you could consider doing is actually building up the sides so that you've got bigger bolsters, so that when you then lean back, there's enough space to accommodate the instrumentation, the equipment that you're talking about.
Right.
Would that make
no,
sense?
I've actually got a machine inside me on my spine. Inside me, it's attached to. It's got the wires are attached to my spine, and
right.
So the machine is inside me. So when I lean back on the hard bucket seat, and it's got no sides on it, it causes me pain. And I just wondered if you were able to source a softer seat, so that when I lean back, my machine that's inside my body doesn't hurt against the hard plastic.
Well, foam that's in furniture, yeah, can be cut to any shape. You know, I mean, we've got a camper van, and you know, it's got a rock and roll bed, so you pull the bed out, you know, seat during the day, and then at night it becomes a bed. And it was a bit hard for us, and we're getting on in years, kind of thing. So what I did was I bought online a foam which is about that thick, yeah. And you buy it by the square metre. You tell them the dimensions, and they cut it and they send it you. And I was able to buy that. So buying maybe a few lengths of that, you know, I mean, whatever width the seat is, you're probably looking to put it so that there's maybe a gap left in the middle, you know, to obviously just so that you're supporting yourself on the sides.
Right. Okay. Thanks very much. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
You could put it on with double-sided tape, yeah.
Oh.
You could fix it with double-sided tape. You know, you get like what carpet fitters use, because carpet fitters use a really strong double-sided.
Or some of that, yeah.
And that would then obviously allow you, you know, to move it about, kind of thing. And then whatever, if you wanted to cover it, you could, I don't know, cover it with a bit of material or something like that. But I have a customer who's got a recumbent, and he has a debilitating rheumatoid thing going on with his wrists, where his wrists are fusing together, yeah. And I've just done a bike for him with his handlebars, yeah. So we looked online at all the different styles of handlebars that he could fit on this recumbent, and he came up with this pair, and he literally has. He's like, if you imagine if you're sitting, you know, recumbent, you're actually in a seating position, and his handlebars are there like that, yeah. So that's the position they're in, because that's the position that his wrists are, you know, becoming thick, yeah. And he then has brake levers that he can operate, and then a trigger shifter for the gear. So everything's possible.
I'd like to get out in it again. I haven't used it a lot, and it's kind of needing a wee bit TLC, but yeah, I've been thinking about it recently, just to get out again, because it feels amazing. I've never had that kind of motion feeling, you know, or propelling myself, you know, that motion. So yeah, thanks very much. Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers.
Does anyone else have any more questions? Okay, anything else you want to say before we wrap up, Dave?
No, it's really just, no, people are quite happy, that's it. Go away and clean your bike.